Welcome back to Joyful Homestead. We are Dan and Heidi, and today we are going to talk about blackberries.
Our blackberries this year were amazing. Our canes were very abundant. We just are finishing up the last of the fresh fruit that I picked, and Heidi actually did a blackberry jam project for the first time this year.
Yes, we got so much joy out of working with them this season, and some of that is because we have learned so much over the past several years about how to take care of the bushes, what to do with them at the end of the season so that you are ready for an abundance next year. Dan's going to show you right now.
We're here in the blackberry patch at the end of the season. I'd like to show you a little bit about what we do to prune for next year. There are two different kinds of canes for blackberries. You've got the flora canes, the flowering ones where the fruit comes. Then you also have the primicanes. Now the primicane is the first year growth, and you can tell a primicane very clearly because it looks younger and newer and fresher, thicker and fleshier, whereas the floricanes are woodier. Of course, the fruit only grows on the floricanes. This year's floricanes were last year's primicanes. I tied this primicane last year up to the trellis, and it became a floricane where it grew the fruit this year and was harvested, almost all of it. I have a couple more berries here that I will do, and then we'll go ahead and cut that off. At the end of the season, when the floricane is spent and the berries have been harvested, it's really important to go ahead and cut that growth off. We don't want any more energy from the plant to go into the floricanes. So right now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it at about 3 or 4 inches from the base. So we're going to leave this floricane for the time being. Even though it's spent and it's mostly brown, it does have some fruit on it that I will go ahead and harvest soon. Once it's harvested, then I'll do the same thing with that floricane, cutting it about 3 to 4 inches from the base. After the floricanes have been cut back, you want then to work on nurturing the primicanes, this year's new growth. So what I typically do is I find the strongest points, and I will go ahead and I will just attach that to my trellis right here. You want to make sure that there's a good support system and that it's ready to go for next year. Now, I wouldn't go very much higher than the highest point of your trellis, about 4 feet. If the canes get too much higher than that, it's okay to cut them back to that and then go ahead and attach them to the trellis there. This is an excellent example of a primicane that should either be cut or guided along my guide wire. Let me show you what I mean. I could cut with my clippers right here and attach with my twisty so that the plant then will propagate both ways. What I'm choosing to do instead, though, is I'm going to go ahead and bend this just ever so slightly to my top guide wire, about 4 feet above the ground. And that should then grow along the guide wire. The reason you wouldn't want to put this on the below guide wires, I have 3 guide wires, is because you don't want to pinch too much on this stalk. If you bend this too much, then you're going to end up pinching it and even breaking it. You may want to consider a couple things. First, support, which we've talked about. Secondly, you want to make sure that the soil is amended well. And that means that you'll want to make sure the pH level is good. Acid-loving plants like blackberries sometimes need amendments, for example, like pine shavings or pine straw at the end of the season to keep them healthy and strong for next year. The whole point of this exercise is to make sure that the blackberries are well prepared for next year. So you'll want to think about a fertilizer. You want to also think about the pH levels of the plant. You want to get it so that every bit of energy that has been spent on it will be recuperated and ready for the fall. Because next year, this primicane right here is going to turn into a floricane.